The views discussed in this conversation are the views of individuals and not of Arrington Capital. This podcast is provided solely for informational purposes and is not financial, legal, tax, or investment advice. The participants of this podcast are not recommending any particular security, protocol, token, financial instrument, or other tradable asset or any investment strategy. It is not offering to sell or soliciting to buy any security or asset.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Pirate Pod from Arrington Capital. Today's guest is Konstantin from Titan. I had the pleasure of sitting down with him in Singapore a couple of weeks ago, coming on the heels of his announcement in September that Arrington Capital led his seed round alongside DPinX and Falablock. Konstantin is very well versed in the cloud computing services. The vision with Titan is to make cloud services cheaper and more accessible by matching the idle resources that come from any community with the global cloud demand. The team has seen very early traction as they tackle what's an exciting, growing DPIN space. I think this is one of those things that we'll look back and say, oh, that seemed obvious, in the same way that people say solar panels to offset your electric costs seem obvious. And so with all of our podcasts, we like to start by having our founders introduce themselves and share their background and path into Web3. And Konstantin, I will pass it over to you. Why don't you just give a little bit of your background and then the journey that you took to founding Titan?
Yeah, well, thanks for such a generous introduction in the first place. And this is very exciting for us to be on the podcast here today with you. Also, super excited at Arrington leading our investment round and excited to build the technology forward ahead. So shortly about myself. My name is Konstantin. I'm Chief Strategy Officer and co-founder of Titan Network. We are building an incentive layer for global idle resources. We are making sure people are leveraging the resources that they have already at their disposal, and they can leverage 100% of their resources while contributing to most important technological advancements such as AI development, cloud development, and you as people are being rewarded from all those benefits growing around the globe. A little bit about myself. Originally, it's been quite a while since I started working with Web3 space. I was first getting familiar with it in 2017, when just tinkering about what digital currency could be, tinkering with Bitcoin at that time and exploring what it could be used for, what could be the payments done, et cetera, et cetera. Since then, a lot of time have passed and internet and Web3 have matured, and there's been such an incredible diversification of what Web3 really means and what are the technologies available. I have personally, since 2017, also worked as a founding member of a construction and AI startup, really diving myself there from my personal background as a civil engineering, in which I have a master's degree. At that time, civil engineering was a really boring industry, or nothing really happens in there since the development of concrete. So I was looking for something else to what can I dive into that is way more active, way more exciting, and brings many of the attraction of people around the globe. So in 2021, I stopped working on that startup. We successfully raised, but I decided to move forward. And I encountered Protocol Labs, developers of IPFS and Filecoin. I joined them as a startup operator at that time, helping startups around the globe to build on top of decentralized technologies such as IPFS and Filecoin. And for me personally, what really attracted me to the industry at that time was there is such a great caliber of people in the Web3 space or in blockchain space that were tackling the problems that never existed before. We forgot how to use decentralized technology for 50 years, almost since the DARPA internet of US decades ago, to now reinventing and discovering new things and toolings, how to really build on decentralized technology. And that's what really attracted me to Protocol Labs at that time. I was working closely with them, helping more than 150 startups to build on top of the technology. And after that, I got a scholarship to actually go to China to do an international relations and management through Schwarzman Scholarship. And that was a great opportunity for me to step a little back from the industry, see what's really missing in there. Through the year in China, I was actually doing research on distributed governance system. So how do we all coordinate this blockchain world that inside of it, it's obvious we don't need coordination. We don't need this powers coming from the outside and trying to control what blockchain or Bitcoin or any other chain is. But in reality, we still need to somehow collaborate between internal world and external parties. And that's what my focus of research was. And after a year in China, after amazing time there, last year in December, I actually joined Titan Network. And since then, we are continuously actively building and making sure that this technology is not only available to people as an average people around the globe, but you can easily connect to the Web3 space and make sure you're getting rewarded for the benefits that technology provides to the parties around the globe. And that's what the whole goal, the whole vision of the Titan Network was. And that's what we're building right now.
So civil engineering, you were then on the operational side at Protocol Labs, then at Tingshua, where you got to sort of take a moment to breathe and study it a little bit more. And Titan is sort of what's coming out of that culmination of your journey.
Yeah, it's been a wild journey, but I'm loving every bit of it. And so excited to be here right now, starting to really make a change for how we operate on things around the globe.
Yeah, and you've had some, we love what you're doing. We've looked at a few things in the space. You've had some amazing traction. We're going to get into the weeds on what Titan is and how you're doing it. If we could just step back a little bit, I think most people are well versed in what's going on across DPIN, and you fall squarely in that space. But existing DPIN networks are suffering from low resource availability because there's a lot of high hardware barriers to entry. There's low utilization rates. There's the cost of switching from what's existing in Web 2 to what people need in Web 3. These idle resources and what you're solving for by letting people that have them put them to work. Can you talk about idle resources from your perspective and what that means a little more deeply?
Totally. And I think that's the most exciting part of what we're talking or building at Titan Network. So in today's world, if you take a step back, we have more devices around the globe than people. If you just count for mobile devices, there are more than 10 billion devices, rough estimation, around the globe, which is already by at least 1 billion more than people around the globe. And at the same time, even further going, if you add laptops, personal devices, IoT devices, we have more than 18 billion devices around the globe that are there available and doing things. And if we have all of those resources available, why not to utilize there to the 100% potential? And that's what we are currently missing in the engineering and technology space. And that's what Titan Network is doing. So our vision and goal is bridge those idle resources and make them do useful work around the globe and find the demand for those idle supply of resources available. Whether you have your phone idle when you're sleeping, for example, that's one of the biggest resources I would say we have so far. Whenever you are sleeping, you're not utilizing your device. And in ideal world, you'll want to put your device to 100% utilization rate so that you can earn a little bit more from that device or get benefit from the resources, or at least someone else could benefit from the resources that are already existing. I think it very nicely aligns between the sustainability topic that all around the globe we are discussing right now. If we want to do sustainable things, we want to leverage the resources that we already have to its maximum potential. And that's what Titan Network allows you to do with computational resources, with storage resources, and with bandwidth resources, such things as your mobile devices, laptops, etc. You can connect them to the Titan Network. And whenever they are idle, we can repurpose your resources to do some good job around the globe. And whenever your device is doing some good job, whether that's computation, storage, or maybe you're doing some inference work for AI models like OpenAI even, this all work will be rewarding the people who are contributing resources. So ultimately, you have idle resources. You can contribute them to the network. And when your resources are utilized, you get benefit from it. I think that's the core value proposition that we're bringing back to people. And we are making sure that if there is a technological advancement happening similar to ChatGPT, similar to AI development that we're seeing all around the world, people are actually able to power that, and people can get rewarded when they are powering such tools.
So you're basically talking about old or sleeping cell phones or computers when they're not
really
used.
We actually using, you can connect any type of resource to the network. You can have old computers or phones that you're not using right now. Most of us probably have an older version of the phone that they were using before they switched. This could be connected to the network and be used 24/7. That's one case story, and that's a very easy and very simple starting point. What you can also do is install it on your current device. For example, Titan Network Node is installed on my Android device, and it's running 24/7 when I'm not using it. You can set and parameterize how much resources you want to dedicate to Titan Network from any of your devices. And then whenever it's idle, you can increase the amount of resources contributed. When you're actively using it, you can decrease it. So it doesn't only require you to have an older phone. You can really connect any type of device. It's a Titan Network node is installed on my laptop. It's contributing resources permanently to the network. And that's where it just, it's your personal decision how much resources do you want to contribute. And obviously, based on how much resources you're contributing, it also will depend how much you earn. But we see in the network right now, and we have contributors from all over the globe. We have more than 430 countries contributing resources right now, network resources to Titan Network. And there are more than 500,000 devices who have contributed resources to the Titan Network since its inception. So all of those people, they're not only using their older devices, they have using their personal computers. We even see data centers contributing resources to the Titan Network. So the scale for us doesn't really matter. You can connect anything from a Raspberry Pi to cloud infrastructure existing right now around the globe. And all of that is powering some useful work around the globe.
Why do you think that early attempts to do this or have more inclusive models where lower barriers to entry with devices with lower compute, why do you think this hasn't been done before, and what makes you think this is the right time to be attempting this?
I think what really builds or makes the Titan network technology possible is the technological advancement that were happening recently. And part of that is development within the blockchain space. All this coordination of large amount of nodes across the globe is a very non-trivial task. And in order to coordinate hundreds and thousands of nodes and load balance the tasks between them, you need sophisticated systems that were not really possible until only recently. We internally at Titan Network is using the upgraded protocol from S3 buckets that Cloudflare is using. So we are really using the state-of-the-art technology that's available right now. And this state-of-the-art technology is enabling us to connect as many devices as possible. If we step back maybe like 5 years ago, I just don't think it was technically possible to coordinate and orchestrate so many different in style, different in availability of resources nodes. What we really bring and why it is so powerful to me as a technology is that Titan Network is agnostic to which type of resource are you connecting to it. Again, it could be a small Raspberry Pi, it could be a 5-year-old device, or it could be a data center. We can fetch the resources available at those infrastructure and bring them to use. Before, it was way harder or not as trivial, and we're just upgrading with the state-of-the-art technology. So that's why there was no solutions existing to it, and hopefully we are spreading the leadership in this going into the future.
Okay, speaking of the future, fast forward, because you bring a very unique perspective here. When we look back 5-10 years out, at that point in time in the future, what does Web3 decentralized version of the cloud look like for both enterprises with massive needs and, smaller applications that need cheaper, better, faster, reliable compute? Is the whole world running AI models with their phones plugged in while they sleep and earning from them? Like, what does that look like in 5 to 10 years?
Well, our hope and our belief for the technology is that you would be able to plug any type of available resource to you to the benefit. And removing the border, removing this gap between what can be connected and you receiving the benefit for it is our ultimate task for the next 3-5 years as Titan Network. In the future, I can totally see, and I think there are some interesting technologies happening in parallel in different industries. For example, with automotive industry and with great increase of electric cars availability around the globe. What we now see as another use case is these electric vehicles becoming a power banks or power grid participants so they can store their energy during the day and return back the energy during the night. And for that, obviously, car owners want to be rewarded. We are doing exactly the same. We are doing this for digital resources, so we are doing the same for storage, bandwidth, and compute. And our goal is to make as seamless as possible for you to have your resource available and get it utilized and get benefit for it. So this reward mechanism for things that you already own is something that we haven't really seen before, and it comes in different bits and pieces. We are talking a lot more about ownership of data right now. We are talking a lot more about ownership of data in the framework of AI training models, in terms of personal data being already used for marketing purposes, but we as producers of that data are not actually benefiting from it. We're talking about solar panels, putting back energy to the grid. So all of these different and maybe misaligned technologies at the first place are all talking about the same narrative. We want to benefit. We want to create a streamlined benefit for the owners of the resources or producers of the resources, and making sure that this is possible also on the device level, on idle resources. That's what Titan Network is taking the responsibility for. So for us, the core goal and core vision is to make sure that whenever in 5 years you have an idle resource that maybe sits around and doing nothing, you have a very seamless 1-2 click pathway to contribute it and start earning from the resource that's available to you. And we want to ensure that all the owners of the resources are actually getting 100% benefit from it.
Yeah, I liked aligning that to the electrical grid. All right, let's dive a little bit more technically. Titan at its core, what is it doing? I believe you're doing this on the Cosmos SDK. Like, talk to me about how you sort of technically built what this is running on.
So on Titan Network side, what we essentially are, we're building our own layer 1 chain that is built on top of Cosmos SDK. That layer 1 chain allows us to coordinate the overall system and coordinate the tasks coming to the network, and those tasks being distributed to different nodes all around the globe. What we have under the hood, we have please do.
Why is Cosmos best suited for you in this case?
We actually really enjoyed their upgradability. So we have already partially rewritten their consensus layer because we were targeting faster speeds. And being on the Cosmos SDK, our engineers have actually upgraded the consensus layer so that we can really tailor it to the use case on the edge devices and making sure that we have enough TPS and throughput to realign the tasks on the fly as our users are making the best use of the available idle resources all around the globe. So for us, the core of the network was that on one side, you have the availability of resources, and blockchain keeps track of all of the nodes available on the network, and it is able to match the resource demand from customers all around the globe to the devices, send them the connection pathway. And once the task is completed, through the same blockchain, the reward is allocated to each user participating in the system. And for us, we don't want to create another centralized solution that controls who gets how many rewards. This should all be transparent, and that's why we're using blockchain. This is why, for us, even if we don't exist in the future, the technology can still run by itself. And removing this barrier of being a centralized entity who controls who can use a resource or cannot use a resource is the goal of why we are all building it on the blockchain layer, making sure the rewards and participation is fully transparent and fully reliable to all the users around the globe. And while this is happening on the network side or like coordination side, the best part of, or not the best, but interesting part of how it works on the resource layer side, you can actually install a very simple resource package on almost any device or operation system around the globe. We are right now supporting Windows, Linux, iOS. You can install it on Android, on Raspberry Pi, on personal device, on a server, on a cluster, on a data center, you name it. We hopefully soon will be running on very interesting devices, like Filecoin recently sent a node to space. I don't see if there is a problem for us to have a small node running somewhere in the outer space as well. It will be super, super exciting.
How long has it taken you to build out all those different tie-ins?
That was quite a work, but I think that's where the infrastructure was mattering for us so much, and I'm so glad about our engineering team making all of this possible. Inside of every node that is participating in the Titan network resource infrastructure, there is a virtual machine plus a container solution running on every single node, making sure that the resources are being contributed to the network. What it also allows us to do is these containers inside the nodes are actually very, very similar to S3 buckets that traditional cloud infrastructure uses. So for a customer coming to the Titan network and trying to rent out resources, it's almost the same as renting the resource from traditional S3 buckets. And deploying their content to a Docker container makes a seamless workflow as we were able to reach out for making sure that the transition between traditional cloud infrastructure and decentralized cloud infrastructure is almost the same. Our goal, and that coming back maybe to your point about deep in was facing big struggles, or still facing big struggles in terms of adoption, partially because there are so many barriers for you to enter the infrastructure system. There are so many barriers for you to get costs, infrastructure, and just people who are capable of connecting you to the network. So goal of Titan Network was to make this workflow as seamless as possible. And that's why we defaulted to using standard protocols from traditional cloud infra, upgraded a little bit, but use the same connectivity sockets, same connectivity functionality, and just use the same containers that the whole world is already using, similar to Docker containers. Building on that core infrastructure really allows us to remove this barrier to participate, not only from the user side, but also from the demand side. And that's where we are bringing these idle resources to the hands of the demand around the globe. And that's what we are trying to do by removing the gap between supply and demand.
Okay, now with all of these disparate sort of tie-ins, and I know that's not the super technical word for it, but you're going from a Filecoin node up in space all the way to, my little iPhone sitting here, and all the demand side. What is the uptime? What does that look like with the engineering and the infrastructure that you've put into place? What does that mean for service agreements and consistent service?
Yeah, well, that's an amazing question. And that's where we also done quite a lot of work to make it as seamless as possible to use. We all are happy with traditional cloud infrastructure providing us, or at least ensuring us, that there is 99.9999 level of reliability, so that the services are all the time uptime, and that whenever someone wants to rent them or utilize them, they're available to you. Our core goal with this idle edge network was to achieve similar performance to traditional cloud infra. Goal of Titan Network is not to compromise on your performance or your functionality when you are using idle edge resources. So in order to achieve this cloud infrastructure level of reliability, we're using two basic parts. So first of all, in the majority of the Titan network, you are using edge devices. Edge devices are free to go online and offline at any point in time. So whenever you rent the resource from the Titan network, you are actually renting multiple devices at once that all are tasked with the same task in order to ensure that at least one will be completed. We're using some game theory in the backbone, making sure that we are replicating the task at least 8 times, so that in return, you are receiving a fully functional result that you can rely on in a day-to-day basis. In addition to the edge devices, so while the majority of the network is traditional edge devices like mobile phones, Raspberry Pis, you name it, we also have data center grade infrastructure that is committed to the Titan network resources. So whenever you have a mission critical task, which requires same as cloud infrastructure level of reliability, Titan network is also able to provide it. We have resource providers that are data centers that are providing resources to traditional cloud. They dedicate some of the space to Titan network. And it's your agency as a resource renter to choose, I only need edge devices to complete my task. Or maybe my task is mission critical and I want to use this data center grade infrastructure. We are making sure that both options are available to you to choose from. So it's your agency as a user to configure the demand, configure the amount of nodes that you are renting from Titan network, and then you can get any type of performance from us similar to traditional cloud infra. There is no loss in quality when you switch to decentralized solutions over traditional centralized ones.
What is the cost savings when you switch from traditional to something like Titan's providing? What, I have an app, I have whatever. What's the cost impact for me?
It's actually very, very sweet, and I think that's where we also have so much customer demand coming in right now to Titan Network. From what we are seeing right now, we are able to provide services similar to traditional cloud infra at 50 to 80% discount, so that your services could be 5 times as cheaper or at least half cheaper. And that is achieved through balancing between multiple edge nodes. And if you're requiring data center grade infrastructure, then obviously the cost will be a little bit higher. But it is still flexible because people are contributing their idle resources otherwise. And for us, making the incentive makes it a lot cheaper than your reliability level of traditional cloud infra, where you're bonded by the contracts that last for months or even years sometimes. There are customers that we are talking with who are contributing the resources they're contributing resources from their data center allocation from traditional cloud, which they're not able to utilize fully. So they want to still get benefit of it. So in that way, you're kind of getting the same service from traditional cloud infra, but just through the Titan network at a discounted rate.
And with Titan, to your point on the contract, you bring up something interesting. Can you turn the volume up and down? So can you scale it on a whim?
Exactly. So what we have seen with customers so far is you can really say how many resources do you want to allocate or do you want to rent almost on a runtime basis. Since we are building it not only on the traditional contract or MRR structure, but you can go to the blockchain, you can announce how many resources do you want to rent and for which amount of time. This is still in the development. We are doing POCs right now, so I'm prefacing a little bit by talking to you on this podcast. But the ultimate vision for the Titan network is that you go on the chain, you announce how many resources do you want to rent, you put the pledge for that for the completed task, and then you get the connection to the buckets, to the nodes around the globe that are ready, available for you to perform the task. Once the task is being completed, once the period for which you rented the resource is finished, the reward that was locked as a pledge will be distributed to the node operators around the globe. And that's how we keep all the system whole and integral, where services are being provided, but also the resource providers are ensured that the reward will come at the end of the service. And they are incentivized to keep online through the whole service period, because only then they will actually get benefit from contributing resources. So it's balancing it all out through, hey, I have a contract, now I want to stay online, and I'm making sure that my service quality is very high so that I'm not losing on the interest generated by the work. And then all of this together also ensures that customers who are renting the resources, they're getting high quality service at any point in time, even though they're using the resources from idle edge devices.
Can we talk a little bit about the early use cases you're seeing on the POCs that you're doing? Not the nodes. We'll get into the size of the network because I know you've got your TestNet and you're coming into MainNet, and I want to get into those numbers, but leave that to the side. And can you talk a little bit about who's actually using the network? Are they DePIN projects? Is it decentralized Web3 projects? Is it Web2 looking to save that 80% on cloud compute? Walk us through some of the early use cases.
That's actually very interesting because we have seen a lot of interest from traditional Web2 industries. One of our two of our core use cases or customer groups that we are working with right now is IP leasing services and CDN services. IP leasing services are type of customer who wants to rent node device and then associated IP address with it. And they're using it for things like VPN, VPS service providers. They're using that for web scraping. There is a lot of interesting customers that use residential IP address for doing the web scraping for traditional AI dataset collection. And this is where it again comes to the topic of how can an average user benefit from the growth of AI. Here, you're contributing your resources on mobile devices to collect the data sets for the AI models, getting the benefit directly or indirectly for AI development all around the globe. And that is such an incredible use case for me because you're putting people back into the loop for the pipeline for the services that they'll be using in the future. But coming back to your topic, first use case is IP leasing services, so CDN, VPN, VPS, web scraping content is one of the larger use cases we have customers with. Second use case is CDN solutions. CDN solution is a very big industry by itself who is relying on serving people content as quick and as seamless as possible. This is a very, very easy example is YouTube streaming or the podcast streaming to which you're listening right now. You are probably listening it from a data center nearby you because it needed to be cached in order to be served on your demand. And so this streaming of content and making it available all around the globe is a very good use case for Titan Network. Because again, we're covering more than 130 countries already at the testnet stage. And we have nodes in many cities. And sometimes we can even go with the nodes on not only on a city, but on a neighborhood level. We have one very, very interesting use case with the customer with which we're working right now. It's a similar app to your traditional DoorDash or Uber Eats. How Uber Eats is architectured is you have app living somewhere on the cloud, and whenever you want to order food, You essentially talk to the cloud and data center, maybe in the same city, maybe in a different city, maybe in a different state or different country, if you're talking about Europe. So what you can do instead of storing all this content far away from where the service is actually being consumed, Titan Network allows you to put this content and services right where the people are needing it. So for example, if you're talking about food delivery, it's way smarter to put pictures of food only in the area where people can order that food. And you don't need to talk to a different data center in a different part of the city or country or world if the food is right there. So storing the pictures of food right where the food delivery is operating is a possibility that is now enabled by Titan Network, and traditional cloud infrastructure is not able to provide such a granularity of CDN services. This is only possible with edge devices, and that's what Titan Network is excelling at a service, because we're working with edge devices all around the globe.
Interesting stuff, Konstantin. What's the business model for Titan? I don't know if I'm asking for the tokenomics at a broad level, but how some of those economics flow from, the more localized version of a podcast distribution or a localized version of an Uber Eats. So what's the economic model there for Titan?
Yeah. So the goal of Titan Network was to enable community to earn from the resources that they're providing. So the economics is also built around that. Whenever a customer wants to rent resource from Titan Network, they essentially announce how much they are willing to pay for rental of the resources to the blockchain. And then this announcement is basically matched with idle resources available all around the globe. Whenever customer receives a task, their nodes are connected to the client, and they're getting the benefit of this virtual machine plus container architecture. So they are getting connected to those containers and deploy their tasks there. And inside the tokenomic is ensuring that 80% of the pledge that customer rented from the network is being distributed directly to all the nodes participating in the task completion. And 20% of that pledge is coming to the Titan Network for providing the services and making sure that all the system is coherent and is fluently operating, and you are receiving the quality service from the edge network all around the globe. So for us as the Titan Network, we see a very good balance and very good incentive between we are distributing the majority of the price paid for the services to the users who are contributing the resources to the network, and only 20% goes to the Titan Network as the service provider, architector, and developer of the network. So by that, we have the full transparency with all our users. They can see on the blockchain level who was awarded how much based on the resources contributed. And every task, you can see the granularity, like why I'm being rewarded this much and why the other person is being rewarded a different amount. And that's, again, why we needed the blockchain on the first level. And that, I think, gives us an additional level of credibility and transparency compared to traditional infrastructure. That is essentially a black box. I'm paying for my cloud rental X amount of money, but I don't know how much it actually costs. Here, all is transparent. Here's a matchmaking process for the customers connecting to resource providers. And that's all happening on chain.
Just recently, you raised your first seed round. You've been building this for some amount of time. You're in a testnet right now, MainNet to come, but you have resource providers running on testnet, right? You mentioned earlier, but give us like sort of the size and scope of how many resources providers you have, and then where in the world they're located for some of the use cases you're seeing.
You can also see that available all over the Titan Network dashboard, and please go on to our main website at titannet.io. As our goal was to run everything transparently, you can see all the metrics of the current network and testnets available there. What we also do is, coming back to a question, the availability of resources around the globe. We have started our testnets since February this year. We have completed 3 testnets, and we have resources contributed to the Titan Network from more than 500,000 node runners around the globe. So more than 500,000 people have installed their Titan Network nodes into their devices or contributing resources to the network. What we have seen is that at least 120,000 of network providers are staying actively on the network, making sure that it's not only just a large number, but the network is dead, there is a continuous interest from our community to support tighter network testnets. And there is more than 120,000 nodes available all around the globe to serve your demands at any point in time. We are able to cover already 130 countries, and we are more to grow people from different countries connecting to the network. We are agnostic to which country or which resource it is coming from. So for us, whether you're connecting from Africa, from Europe, from US, it's indifferent, and we are able to take any type of resource and make sure we match those resources to the service available to you.
Assuming some of the geo is going to have an impact on what those economic models look like. It might be worth it for people in some countries to be able to earn a few dollars a year off of something they're not using when they're sleeping versus other countries, and that has an actual lifestyle impact. When you look at the nodes, that number is inclusive of, you know, a Kelly sitting here that has 2 or 3 old phones running. That's 2 or 3 different nodes, even though they're all mine, right?
Yeah. This counts just raw power of like number of nodes available to the network, but on the same dashboard, you can also...
Which doesn't matter to the network because you're still looking at just the pure compute on that device. Do you think that we get to a point where we see farms or rooms of old phones instead of ending up in landfills or repurposed? They're like plugged in and they're running the next decentralized apps of the world?
I think that's a very, very valuable approach, because if we're talking about sustainability, and instead of just disposing and dumping it somewhere, why not to put to use the devices that are already produced, and we already spent the resources to contributing those? Whether that should be done in the form of farms or any other structures, it's still a question, and I think it's we're still a little bit early to say whether that's the best approach to providing such resources. But I can totally envision that people are collaborating together, putting those old infrastructure that they have at their disposal to make sure all of this is seamless and running in a synchronized way. From us, the goal was rather not to incentivize one over the other. For us, the goal was to make sure all of those resources could be connected with a simple click or maybe 2 clicks to the network. So right now, for example, on Android device, you literally need 2 clicks from being on our website to installing Titan Network node and contributing resources to Titan Network. And I think that's an incredible decrease of the barrier. So you don't need to build a farm and have a sophisticated engineer sitting nearby you telling you which things to click or how to make it possible. And then you suddenly need a large pledge to start becoming a miner as you have it in Ethereum or Filecoin. No, you just have your device, you install a simple app. There is one button you click to start earn, and that's it. That's where you're connected to the network, and that's where it becomes to Titan Network as a responsibility to leverage your resource and match your resource with the customers. And that's how it works. So that's why, whether that's a farm or a single phone, it doesn't make a difference or disparity. Our goal is to make rewarded every user that contributes to the network according to the amount of resources that they're contributing. So for us, whether it's one simple device, whether that's a 5-year-old phone or a data center, you are getting rewarded according to the useful work that you're producing. And that's amazing.
Fascinating. What comes next for Titan? You've got MainNet coming up. You don't have to give us a date for it. It's fine. But you've got MainNet coming up. What else should we be looking out for major milestones? And talk to us a little bit about what MainNet means for decentralized cloud services in general and the next evolution of that.
What we are actively building, and that's where, even though we're at the testnet stage right now, you are already able to rent resources from the Titan network. And that's an incredible new ways of how we're leveraging power of blockchain technology, but at the same time, keeping sure that people can rent it or use it before it actually is mainnet live. So for us, Titan storage is already available in live, and you can go and benefit from traditional storage solutions from a decentralized network already at a testnet stage. We are rolling out our compute and bandwidth services already as a standalone services, so that you are not binded to come to us and do a business deal before you can use the resources. Our goal is to make the rental of resources agnostic from working with Titan Network. You just go, copy the tutorial or follow an API instructions and use the resources straight away. That's how seamless it should be. And that's how it works for traditional cloud infra right now. So for us, the next milestones or goals before the mainnet launch is to release storage, bandwidth, and compute as services available to you agnostically from what we're doing. We will be also soon releasing our white paper so that everyone can better understand the needs and greeds behind the Titan network technology, tokenomic, etc., you name it. We are collecting the information right now, and we're preparing to make it nice and available for everyone to understand and get a grasp of what Titan network is doing. And in addition to that, we are continuously building with our fascinating customers who are creating solutions on top of Titan network already right now. One of the cool things that you can actually go and test out yourself already is a solution built by one of our community builders, which is called TonDrive. If you go to your Telegram and go to a TonDrive bot, you can upload content from any of your channel or any of your messages in that bot, and that bot will send content to Titan storage. So suddenly, inside your Telegram, you are able to have access to decentralized storage and be independent of centralized storage providers that require different things and data availability from your side. These small, simple things are coming along the way with development of Titan Network. And I think this is where I would just encourage speakers or listeners to this podcast or someone who is watching us live to go and follow Titan Network social channels where we make announcements about what's coming next, what's available. We're definitely excited for the mainnet launch as well, and it should be coming as soon as it's ready for obvious reasons. In the meantime, participate in our testnets, contribute resources to the Titan network. The benefit of being participant of the testnet, maybe that's also a very good point to mention, is that while the mainnet is still not live, you're still earning Titan credits or testnet tokens that are being awarded to all early contributors to the network. Testnets allow us to validate all the assumptions of the technology, and they allow us to also provide services already at the testnet stage. And all who are participants of the network right now or testnets right now will be rewarded with an airdrop on the mainnet launch. So that's a way for us to give back to the community, and that also ensures that all the resources that are being contributed right now are getting benefited and getting paid for. So we're being fair with our community, and we are excited for all the contributions that people are making all around the globe.
Konstantin, thank you so much. We were honored to lead your seed round at Titan. We love the approach. We love how quickly the team's moving, the very thoughtful way that you're looking at UI and letting people participate in this highly decentralized model. Congrats on the momentum. Looking forward to the white paper and MainNet. And thank you so much for joining us on the Pirate Pod today.
Thanks for inviting. To everyone listening to the podcast, definitely follow Arrington Capital channels and make sure you're all excited about deep in technology of the future.